Welcome back to the daily Living Jewish Kitzur Shulchan Aruch class. We are up to section 70, believe it or not, of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, which deals with the laws of Maariv, the evening prayer. Let's take a look. We'll start with our regular PowerPoint. So we've divided up the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch into about 12 general sections, starting from the beginning of the day and then running through the course of the day. We get up, and then we daven, and then we learn, we behave ourselves, we eat, we bench, we go to work, and after a long day, it's time for evening prayers. Actually, the evening prayers included in the section are both afternoon prayers, which can already be said from around 12:30 p.m. So that's section 69, which we last learned about before the break. And then today we begin section 70, which discusses the evening prayers. And please God, tomorrow night or the following, we'll learn about 71, how to go to sleep like a bitch. So let's take a look at section 70 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Just a moment while I pull it up, please. As that loads, just to get a quick overview of what the section deals with, we'll start by discussing the earliest time that one can daven the evening prayers, Maariv, and then we'll discuss about how soon that should be done, davening together with the minyan, not making interruptions, and not leaving anybody alone. That's what we'll be discussing over the next couple of minutes, please God, with the help of Hashem. Let's see the text inside. But before we get to the text, it's worth taking a moment to just remind ourselves, why do we daven Maariv? So there's a historical reason, and then there is the foundation, the actual basis of this particular mitzvah. So as we know, one of the 613 mitzvahs is to daven. We daven every day. But what exactly davening means is something that was instituted largely by the sages. So if you rewind about 2,000 years, people would each daven however they felt like it, believe it or not. In the very simplest sense of the word, to daven, lispalo, literally means to really ask Hashem for your needs. Or to pray. You don't usually hear people using the word pray in conversation, other than to Hashem. What does it mean to pray? To pray means to ask for something. So the actual mitzvah to daven is to ask. Well, why should we ask Hashem? He knows. Well, when we daven to Hashem and we ask Him for our needs, so we remind ourselves that He's boss and that He controls everything, and that He will be our source of guidance, of direction. So on a very simple, basic level, davening is an opportunity for us to acknowledge that we are in Hashem's hands, that Hashem runs the world, and if we need something, we've got to turn to Hashem, because He's going to be the one that's going to make a difference. I just witnessed or heard about a miracle in the family. I have a brother-in-law that was having a particular medical difficulty, and he went to many doctors, and none of the doctors were able to help him. This happened literally a week ago. And then, with not knowing what to do next, he sent out a message to his alumni. He's a teacher, he's a Rosh Yeshiva, and he asked his alumni to please concentrate when they make the bracha, where we ask Hashem to assist us in this particular area. It was the bracha Asher Yatsa. That one says after going to the bathroom. And it was a real, as I said, it was a real medical challenge, something that was as a result of a larger medical challenge. And within 24 hours of many people responding to him, that they would take it upon themselves to thank Hashem for the wonders of their body with the bracha Asher Yatsa, his body started to work. After many, many days and weeks of no doctors being able to come up with solutions, until he actually had his next appointment with the doctor on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, what's today? Exactly a week ago, I guess, on Tuesday morning. And the doctor came to the house, and the doctor said that, yeah, something started working. I think you could stop all of the medications that you're taking. And then and then the next day he went to a clinic and he went to a second doctor, and that doctor said, I don't know if you should stop all at once, maybe one at a time. Anyhow, he already had two different opinions, and he decided it looks like I've got my own source of salvation. And he went cold turkey as per the first doctor's advice. He stopped taking all the laxatives and all the medication. And thank God, as he shared this video of thanks to the thousands of people that got his message around the world, he said day after day, his body is now much better than it was. Still has a long way to go. So it was an open miracle of how we've got to realize that the only way that we get everything that we need is from Hashem. And the fact that we work to make money, and the fact that we take medicine to get better, and everything else that we do, it's our part that we play because Hashem wants us to be involved. But when we daven and we ask Hashem, we remind ourselves that it's all in Hashem's hands. It's not in our hands. So it's been a little while since we've learned, and we're now going back into an important prayer, which is the evening prayer. And I wanted to pause for a moment to just remind us why we daven on a very basic level. So that's the mitzvah of davening. And as I mentioned way back when, each person would daven however they felt like it. There was no siddur. There was no time for prayer. So why now? What changed? So the rabbis realized that people were actually lacking the ability to express themselves, the tools. And the rabbis, not by human intellect, but by divine inspiration, put together a siddur that is a formula of words that when we engage ourselves in utilizing those words, so they help us in achieving the goal of davening. So the words are actually the vehicle through which we're able to ask Hashem for whatever we need, and to be able to connect to Hashem and thank Hashem. And so davening is actually much more than just asking for our needs. It's really a time where we develop our relationship with Hashem. And so, yes, back in the day there was no siddur, but it seems like back in the day people naturally had built-in tools. But as we've gotten over the years, where we've lost that spiritual sensitivity, today we utilize the words of the siddur that the rabbis instituted to help us achieve that goal of asking Hashem for our needs. And if you look at the siddur and you feel like it's not helping you achieve that, then that's totally normal. It's very common. But the problem isn't chas v'shalom with the siddur. The challenge is that we're not so fluent with it, or we're not so familiar with it. But as we take the time to understand the breakdown of davening and understand a breakdown of the siddur and the role of each prayer, then please God, we will find that the siddur is a wonderful divine vehicle to help us ask for everything that's on our hearts. So that's why we daven on a daily basis, and that's why we have a siddur. Why 3 times a day? So each of the forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, established each of the 3 daily prayers. By Abraham, it says, by Yashkev, Abraham, Baboiker, Abraham woke up early in the morning, actually when he was on his way to do the tremendous mitzvah of the Akedah of sacrificing his son, which thank God Hashem didn't make him actually do. Hashem was testing him. It was a mitzvah of that just for him at that time to prove his loyalty. But when he got up that morning, it says, Vayipka b'makom hahu, if I remember correctly, he met at that place. Well, who did he meet? He met Hashem. And with that, Abraham established that by Yashkem, we wake up early in the morning and we daven. And then Yitzchak, so Yitzchak's father's servant Eliezer had gone to find him a wife. And just as she was coming back with Eliezer, the woman he was about to marry, it says that Yitzchak went, Lasuach basadeh, to talk in the field. Who was he talking to? He was talking to Hashem. Yitzchak introduced the idea of once again talking to Hashem and davening to Hashem in the afternoon. And Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, as he was running away from his brother that wanted to kill him, it says the sun set, and then he turned to Hashem, forgot the words right now, and it was at night. And so Jacob instituted the night prayers. So we have Abraham instituted the morning prayers, Isaac instituted the afternoon prayers, and Jacob instituted the evening prayers. Now that said, although they each instituted these prayers, it wasn't yet an obligation on the individual. It was only at a much later point when the temple was destroyed. And now, when the temple stood, there were the daily sacrifices. Daily sacrifices. What exactly does that mean? So, on a daily basis, there was a mitzvah for every single Jew to give up themselves to Hashem. They would take of their assets, they would take a cow or an animal, something that they had worked to look after and to care for, and they would bring it on the altar to Hashem. And when they brought it on the altar, they would say that I should consider it as if it was me. This is an opportunity for me to ask myself, how much of myself am I giving to Hashem? Now, I said it was a mitzvah for each individual. That doesn't mean that you had 1 million cows on Temple Mount on a daily basis. The way it worked was the Kohen brought one daily offering or one daily sheep on behalf of the entire Jewish people. And that was a form of daily service. In fact, not once a day, but twice a day. The first offering was brought first thing in the morning, and the second offering was brought in the afternoon. And that was a mitzvah for every Jew, but it was accomplished for everybody by the Kohen that was serving on that day. It was a time where we gave of ourselves to Hashem, which is part of the service of prayer, the service of davening. Once the temple was destroyed, so the sages instituted that now each of us on our own, or even better, with a minyan in shul, can at those two times, once again, give of ourselves towards Hashem, to turn to Hashem and to speak with Him and to realize our reliance upon Him and our trust in Him. What were those two times? The morning, the Shachris prayer, and the afternoon, the Mincha prayer, which is any time from about half an hour after halachic midday, as we mentioned before. Regular midday is 12, or in modern terms, midday is 12 p.m. But in literal terms, midday is the halfway point between sunrise and sunset. So if we look at any particular day, what time the sun rose and what time the sun sets, and you cut the day exactly in half and you add 30 minutes, so that is the earliest time for Mincha, which we learned about in the previous section some time back. And then the time for Mincha continues up until sunset. Or under pressing circumstances can still be done later if it wasn't yet done, as we learned. Now the afternoon offering was brought on the altar while it was still day, but the offering continued to burn on the altar long into the night. So it was actually brought at two separate times. It was being offered over two time spans. It was brought in the afternoon and continued to burn into the night. Now, once the temple was destroyed, the rabbi said, corresponding to the three times where an offering would be brought, meaning the morning and the afternoon, and when the animal would continue to burn into the evening, into the night, we have our daily 3 prayers. The first prayer is to be recited as soon as we can in the morning, once it's gotten light, or preferably after sunrise or at sunrise. That's the morning prayers. The afternoon prayers are recited, as I mentioned, 30 minutes after halachic midday up until sunset. And the evening prayers are recited a little bit later. Now, it's important to mention that when we daven in the evening, we're actually doing 2 things at once. The same thing happens in the morning as well, usually. When we daven in the evening, we are both saying the Amidah, which is a time when we turn to Hashem and we ask Him for our needs. And at the same time, we also fulfill a daily fundamental mitzvah, which is to acknowledge God as our God, as the only God, to whom which we are subservient, with the recital of the Shema Yisrael. So we have a mitzvah to say the Shema prayer every morning and every night. And when we daven Maariv, the evening service at night, we both say the Shema, which is a mitzvah, to again acknowledge Hashem's unity and how He's our God and our subservience to Him. And in the Amidah, we ask for our needs. But that said, that will only work if you are davening the evening service once it is completely night, as we'll see in a moment, once the stars come out. If you will be davening the evening service a little bit early, which we'll see soon one can do together with a minyan, then once it does become night at your first opportunity, you haven't yet done the mitzvah of saying the Shema, and you will fulfill that mitzvah once it becomes night. So that pretty much is an overview of prayer in general and the evening prayer in particular, and it brings us to where we are up to in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Please God, tomorrow we will look at the text inside, now that we've had this introduction, and see how exactly the Maariv evening service is davened. And even for those of you which aren't yet davening Maariv on a daily basis, you will still speak about the Shema as well. And the Shema is certainly something that I highly recommend, and more than just recommend, every one of you to ensure that you do every night after 3 stars come out, which nowadays is about 7:20, I would say, 20 something in Johannesburg.